Welcome and good morning to New Jersey Motorsports Park here in Millville, New Jersey. I'm Jason Pridmore. This is another edition of Raceline with MotoAmerica, where we're going to give you the opportunity to listen to a show here that's going to last show of the year. It's going to give you an opportunity to maybe place a couple wagers on some of your favorite riders. And as usual, I have my buddy Ben Wilson here. Obviously, Ben, betting expert, MotoAmerica enthusiast. Ben, where did it all go? We started in March at Daytona, and we're already at the final round.
I cannot believe it. We've had so much fun, Jason, throughout the nine race weekends, and I think if anything, we've at least helped prove to our audience that a lot of these lines have been off. There's been tremendous amounts of areas to profit and take advantage of where the odds makers have not been accurate here. And to have especially on a superbike, and we're going to start there. Really, the focus of the show will be on the superbike since we've got such an incredible finish coming down to the stretch here. And the fact that we've only seen 2 other seasons in MotoAmerica Superbike history where a championship has been decided by under 10 points really tells you just how rare of a treat this has been to see 3 riders going back and forth head-to-head in Bobby Fong, Cam Beaubier, and Josh Herrin, and I can't wait to see how it all plays out this weekend.
Yeah, there's no question, and there's a lot of things that we're going to get into here when we talk about this Superbike season. What a treat it's been to be able to commentate, watching these 3 tremendous riders in Herrin, Beaubier, and of course Bobby Fong doing the thing. Bobby leading the points, great to see. 8-point lead over Beaubier, and you see 22-point lead over Herrin. Gagne's still in. He's still in. He's taking it all the way to the final race of the year, even though, when you look at it, on paper, actually, no, I think he might be out of it. 75 points, so he's a little bit out. The first 3, though, we got to talk about this. At New Jersey, historically, Ben, this place always rains. And that's all I heard about the whole time is it's going to rain. Look at it. It's absolutely perfect. What this is going to do for me, Josh Herrin, 22 points back. At such a small track, Ben, this is a bull ring. This is a 1:20 lap time. It's going to bring a lot of other players into play. 3 races we have here this weekend, and when you look at the 3 riders that are battling for the championship, they're not going to be able to just sit still and focus on themselves, because I think that there's going to be a bunch of other riders, as I've already seen from first practice this morning, they're going to be able to put themselves up front and maybe get in that mix.
It makes it really fascinating because not only do we have the normal race odds like we have every race, we still have futures odds available to bet on, and a lot of times from the betting perspective, futures are really popular wagers to make in the preseason or a couple races into the year. But there's also a lot of value you can find once you get down to the very end of the season. Some people call it like the short runway theory, right? Because you only have, in this case, 3 races to go, 1 race weekend, yet we have a pretty good idea of where we're at. And as we take a look at the futures, Bobby Fong, who has the 8-point lead, his futures, they decreased a touch after last week, even though he had a good weekend, was on the podium twice. Right now, Bobby Fong sitting there minus 240, which is a 71% implied probability, Jason, that he will win this thing. Cam Beaubier second at plus 177. Josh Herrin still alive, about a 5% chance, according to the odds makers, at 17-1. Look, I can't help but feel like, as a fan getting to know these guys this year, I find myself rooting for Fong to become a first-time Superbike champion, but I just can't help think with the odds, though, JP, and given what you just said, how this track generally plays, how tight these races traditionally are, a 71% implied probability with only an 8-point lead, it feels like that should be a little closer to 50-50, does it not?
Oh, like 100%. And the big one there you mentioned is Josh Herrin, 22 points. Is nothing, okay, over 3 rounds. And at 17-1, this guy last year dominated here at New Jersey. He arguably could have won the race that his teammate Loris Baz did actually win. So when you look at those kind of things, and this morning Herrin was quickest at a 20.5, I believe it was. So Herrin, to me, at 17-1 is a no-brainer to put a little something on. And that was my question to you. When you look at where Fong is right now, we know he's favorite. Would you put a little bit on Beaubier and a little bit on Herrin? Because even if Beaubier was to win the championship, yeah, you wouldn't make your money back necessarily if you put money on both Herrin and Beaubier. But that Herrin number is so big, and to be honest with you, 22 points is nothing. With the pressure that's going to be put on these guys, let me bring up another couple options too. You got the Suzukis that are going to be quick. They've already proven that this morning. The Honda of Hayden Gillim was 3rd this morning. This is a track for him. And the Orange Cat team that just wrapped up the Stock 1000 Championship with Andrew Lee. They brought Andrew Lee and Jason Uribe in here. They were 6th and 7th this morning, respectively, in the times. Yeah. Everything is so close. So, I mean, for Herrin, it is doable that he can make up these 22 points. So I think that 17-1 number, why wouldn't you put something on him?
I totally agree. And what we've seen this year is the futures odds generally have probably been the most off of any of these odds. And go no further back than to when Josh Herrin was minus 910 to win the championship.
Amazing.
At 90% implied odds, that was, 4 race weekends ago. All of a sudden, they're telling you he's got a 5% chance to win. A lot of times you tend to see overreaction to very good performances, and at the very same token, Jason, that exact same thought, overreaction to struggles. And to me, the big question was, is Josh Herrin healthy enough for me to support him as a bettor? I thought last week really proved. I mean, it was a gutty effort for him, winning that race, kind of getting back on form, had a couple of podiums as well. So I certainly don't believe, as we look at the race one odds, and I think the odds makers actually agree here. Maybe one of the few times we've been in agreement with the odds makers,
yes.
JP, that
100%.
Josh Herrin is back in form, he's healthy, and he should be the favorite based on what we've seen over the balance of the season.
There's no question. And when you think about these numbers here, you're exactly right. This is the closest that we've seen where I would look at this and go, yep, that's about right. They got Beaubier and Fong pretty close. Beaubier this morning was a crasher in that session, Ben. He was 9th quickest, so he lost basically half a session. Bobby Fong did what he does, was out there putting in his laps. He's also got some support. He is the only one that has support from a teammate in Jake Gagne. Gagne was 2nd quickest this morning, so he is showing some speed. We have to take some of that stuff into consideration, but when I look at all this and I look at what the weather can do here in a place like this, man, you look at 46 plus 4,685 on Hayden Gillum, wouldn't be a bad little number there. That guy was third quickest this morning. He's running 2 classes, so he's going to be ready to go. But these numbers are the closest that we have seen all year for sure.
Hayden Gillum already cashed a 15-1 last week in the King of the Baggers. 47-1. That's
crazy.
Not half bad. And just think about this from a math perspective real quick before we move on. I mean, Josh Herrin, if he's going to win at plus 120 as the favorite, well, what is that going to do to his futures odds going into race 2? I mean, you'll go from 17-1 probably down to 2 or 3-1 if that happens. So without a doubt, best bet to make if we're just looking purely on the numbers and you haven't invested yet, it is Josh Herrin, 17.
Yeah.
No question. We'll take a look now at the head-to-heads. But, yeah, I love that is an option for us. It's a great avenue we have as bettors. And here's how these were the top 2 riders at the start of the year. Now they're 2 and 3, and Josh Herrin is minus 160. The Cam Beaubier is plus 120. That's an interesting wrinkle, though, what you mentioned, Jason, about Beaubier having some struggles here in the first session.
Yeah, it's not the way you want to go into your weekend at all, and we know that Cam has had some struggles. I mean, he did everything possible to win both those races. Came up a bit short in race 1 at COTA, and then obviously won race 2. But you could tell, even by that big front end loss that he had, 2 corners to go or 3 corners to go at the end of the race there at COTA, when he lost that front, you could tell Cam's not quite comfortable. Look, the guy's won a bunch of Superbike championships. He's going to figure out a way to grit this out, but that's not a good way to start it this morning. With these numbers here, Herrin against Beaubier, again, we're looking back at that 17-1. Let's have another one. Bobby Fong over SDK. Bobby Fong at almost 2-1 here over Sean Dillon Kelly. This is another one that could be a little bit tricky. The Suzukis are going to go well here. That said, Ben, when I was sitting here getting ready to do your show, I saw Sean Dillon Kelly's bike being pushed back to the paddock in pieces as well. So he had a big crash this morning also. I think when you look at this, SDK has nothing to lose. Bobby has a lot to lose. Bobby's going to be keeping an eye on certain things. This is kind of a no bet for me again.
Yeah, if you could guarantee me a perfect bike, I would say, in perfect condition, I would say SDK, good value play on that. Let's go to our third and final head-to-head. Jake Gagne, Richie Escalante. I had two really frustrating beats last week. Not only with the Rams plus 3.5 against the Eagles, and Richie Escalante in a head-to-head who had just rotten luck, Jason, in the last timeout with a couple mechanical failures.
How good did he ride, though, at COTA, did Richie Escalante, and getting a chat with him a lot that last weekend, talking to him about how they've gone a little bit of a different direction in things. I think Richie will be strong here this morning. He was a little bit further back than he would probably like, but Gagne looks extremely strong here, and this is a good track for Jake as well.
I'll stay away from this one. I had to point that out, Jason, because we had Escalante over 2-1 in a head-to-head. He looked awesome until the bike failed on him. I don't know what was worse, that or the Rams.
Well, how dare you bet against my Eagles? By the way, I was on the other side of that. So there you go.
Anyway, they should. I mean, look, come on, the 3.5. It was good for 59 minutes, 59 seconds. All right, on to Supersport. So our last two classifications, championships, you feel like pretty much decided. Although it is decided in the baggers, it's not completely for Supersport. However, Matthew Skoltz now up to minus 816 in the futures odds. Jason, he has been in great form now for the better part of 2 months here, and really rolling after a pair of race wins last time out at COTA to pretty much wrap this thing up.
Yeah, and the thing is when you look at him right now at 21-point lead, he was quickest this morning by a pretty big margin, and I say a pretty big margin just on the consistency level. He was running a lot of fast laps, was Matthew early. PJ was second again, as we would expect. PJ was pushing hard. I talked to PJ a little bit. I said, hey, how did it go this morning? He goes, P2 again, Jay. I'm like, yeah, I can see that. So the thing is, with a 21-point lead, I think Matthew's going to come into this after doing what he did here last year. He's going to come in, just try to win that first race and be able to enjoy his Sunday tomorrow.
Yeah, I would look at these race odds. They will always refresh after the first race. So as you see right here, Matthew Skoltz, he's even money. Jacobsen plus 128. I would look to bet Jacobsen actually race 2 here. Just looking at assuming Skoltz very much likely with that 21-point lead to clinch the title after race 1, as you were talking about, Jason. Then look to bet on Jacobsen. I thought it was interesting listening to Jacobsen's interview in the preview show we had. He said he feels like he's raced almost a perfect season. Only one non-podium. It's just Skoltz has been that much better. And you have to give so much credit to Matthew Skoltz. We talked about him at one point nearly 2.5 to 1 on the futures odds. And now he has been rolling. So Jacobsen will be a guy I'm going to look to play on in race number 2. Jason, here's how it lines up as far as the head-to-heads between the top 2 in this classification.
Yeah, and I'd be careful, Ben, because if Matthew does beat PJ tomorrow, Matthew is going to go straight into tomorrow just with nothing, all holds barred. He's going to just go crazy. So when you look at Matthew right there as a small favorite over PJ, I kind of think that's about right, isn't it? I go back to Barber, where Matthew crashed in the rain and picked his bike up to finish 3rd. Do you remember that one? He ended up finishing 3rd in that race. That is the difference in the championship coming here into this weekend. So PJ, yeah, he's been extremely consistent. Matthew's won a little bit more, but that race, if Matthew had snapped a bar off or something like that, it would be different than it is right here.
And that was back when you could actually have gotten Skoltz at pretty good plus money to actually win the championship. All right, let's go to King of the Baggers. Well, it's already decided. Kyle Wyman, even though he didn't have the best race weekend, it was probably by far his worst of the season last time out at COTA. He's already clinched. He's good to go. Loris Baz was actually really good last week. He was second in both races, and here's how the points look. It's always fascinating, Jason, whenever you're in kind of like a lame duck set of races, right, where the championship's decided. But, I mean, you're someone who used to wear the helmet. I got to think, if you're riding out there, like, it's not like you're just going to go for a nice casual Saturday, Sunday drive. I mean, these guys are still going to be all out looking to win.
I actually think that these races here for baggers are going to be crazy, if I'm being honest, because everybody's looking for a ride. We haven't even talked about it. It's the end of the season. There's a rider's market going on. There's gossip all over the place. When you look at these numbers, Kyle Wyman, obviously minus 160, but I like Rocco. I like Hayden Gillum. But those two guys right there, Rocco wants to win. He had a tough weekend at COTA. Hayden won at 13-1, coming in here to a track that I know Gillum loves. He's going to be tough, but don't take your eyes off those Indians. How can you ever bet against Troy Herfoss? This is going to be anybody's race, and I think Baggers is going to be very, very exciting this weekend.
Hey, no, without a doubt, you laid it out, Jason. You got to look at at least one bomb, and it's set up like this.
Right.
So, Hayden Gillum, he's cashed. I mean, look, 2 of the last 4 races he's won as a double-digit bomb, and here Gillum is matched up against James Rispoli. For these sort of situations, when you're looking at guys further down the odds board, I'd much rather just look at the guy totally outright, especially when you know the win equity for a rider like Hayden Gillum is absolutely there to actually win one of these races, not just bet him in a head-to-head.
No question. I think Hayden Gillum could be a championship contender in this class. We've seen him win it before, but this year it just didn't pan out. He had some mechanicals, like we saw him at Laguna Seca leading a race with 4 corners to go and braking. So he's had some issues, has Hayden, but he's still capable. Now let's look at this one. Kyle Wyman versus Troy Herfoss. These numbers are way skewed to me. There is no way that anybody should be that big of a favorite over Herfoss, especially after we've seen him win races this year. He won the last race. So when you look at these again, these numbers are a little bit off. This is a no play for me between these two guys. Too much respect for both of them.
I'd also just mention the fact that Loris Baz plus 882, the first time he has been under 10-1 all year. And he's probably going to finish second in the championship, Jason. That's also just kind of a funny quirk to me in the betting market. And
he won a Superbike race here last year. I mean, Lars Baz knows his way around this place, and I haven't really heard too much movement going on as far as baggers go for 2026. So I'm not sure what that rider's market's going to be like. But I can assure you something, though, Ben, that when we end up back at Daytona in March of 2026, there are going to be riders in different spots. There could be some new teams in Superbike and in Supersport that I'm hearing about. It could really, this is the first time in my 11-year tenure here at MotoAmerica that there is a buzz going around the paddock right now with new teams, new bikes, new riders coming in, people coming from overseas. It's been a lot of fun this year, and boy, it's been a lot of fun for me learning from you how all this stuff goes, how it works, and you know, I very much appreciate everything you've done for me personally, but also for the sport itself.
No, I appreciate it, Jason. You've taught me so much as well, all the access, helping to meet a lot of these riders. So it's been a blast for me as well. We got to run it back, though. One more race for us. I can't wait to see how it plays out. What an awesome championship battle. I will be watching you guys on the call all weekend as well. And as a reminder, you can check out NXTbets.com/PlayMA for more betting information on MotoAmerica. For Jason, I'm Ben. Huge thanks to our crew. We can't thank you enough for checking into the MotoAmerica Racing Line.